If you think I am talking about you, then I am. Hatred. A deep and emotional extreme dislike. It can be directed against individuals, groups, entities, objects, behaviors, or ideas. Hatred is often associated with feelings of anger, disgust, and a disposition toward hostility. Misunderstanding. Mistaken or incorrect understanding. Understanding is to take something to understand or to have conceptualized. You can conceptualize it to a given measure. That is to understand. Then there's moral responsibility. In philosophy, moral responsibility is the status of morally deserving praise, blame, reward, or punishment for an act or omission in accordance with one's moral obligations. Deciding what, if anything, counts as morally obligatory is a principal concern of ethics. People who have moral responsibility for an action are known as moral agents. Agents have the capability to reflect on their situation, to form intentions about how they will act, and then to carry out that action. The notion of free will has become an important issue in the debate on whether individuals are either morally responsible for their actions, and if so, in what sense. I personally do not believe in free will. Moral responsibility does not necessarily equate to legal responsibility. A person is legally responsible for an event when a legal system is liable to penalize that person for that event. Although it may often be the case that when a person is morally responsible for an act, they are also legally responsible for it. The two states do not always coincide, however. When people attribute moral responsibility, they usually attribute it to individual moral agents. However, it can be argued that governments, its representatives, corporations, institutions, and other groups of people can have what is called collective moral responsibility for a state of affairs. Lack of sense of responsibility of psychopaths. One of the attributes defined as psychopathy is, quote, failure to accept responsibility for one's own actions, unquote. Accountability. Political accountability is the accountability of the government, civil servants and politicians, to the public and to legislative bodies such as a Congress, Parliament, commissions, or councils. In ethics and governance, accountability is answerability, blameworthiness, liability, and the expectation of account giving. Because many different individuals and large organizations contribute in many ways to decisions and policies, it is difficult, even in principle, to identify who should be accountable for the results. It creates a dilemma for accountability. If individuals are held accountable or responsible, individuals who could not have prevented the results are either unfairly punished or they take responsibility in a symbolic ritual without suffering any consequences. As an aspect of governance, it has been central to discussions related to problems in the public sector, nonprofit and private, corporate and individual contexts. In leadership roles, accountability is the acknowledgement and assumption of responsibility for actions, products, decisions, and policies, including the administration, governance, and implementation within the scope of the role of employment position and encompassing the obligation to report, explain, and be answerable for resulting consequences. In governance, accountability has expanded beyond the basic definition of, quote, being called to account for one's actions, unquote. It is frequently described as an account-giving relationship between individuals. Accountability cannot exist without proper accounting practices. In other words, an absence of accounting means an absence of accountability. Legal liability. In law, a person is legally liable when he or she is financially and legally responsible for something. Legal liability concerns both civil law and criminal law. In conclusion, the local establishment has obviously forgotten its responsibilities toward the health and safety of its constituents. When citizens combine irresponsibility and hatred, misunderstanding and lack of accountability with criminal intent, historically has always led to property loss, injury, and death.